I saw this one sentence in a small regional newspaper that caught my eye on Twitter. This is from the Kelowna Daily Courier in the BC interior. Here's a look at the article. The headline is, Trudeau's muted trip to Kelowna, a Liberal success. Well, that's important news that every Kelownian wants to know. Not was it a success for the country or their city, but did the Liberals succeed? The good news is our top investigative reporter looked into the matter and asked the Liberal Party, and indeed the news was good. The trip was a great success, if the Liberals do say so themselves. What a weird headline. Now, in fairness to the reporter, we don't know if he himself wrote that headline. Often that's an editor or even the publisher writing the headline. So let's read the story itself. I'm going to take you through every word. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's summer listening tours stop in the Okanagan was as silent as advertised Tuesday. That's a weird way to describe a political tour, isn't it? Silent? He toured a Boys and Girls Club, a packing house, and a fruit stand with reporters invited to take pictures and videos, but forbidden in advance to ask any questions. Any shouted queries would result in police-assisted eviction from the various premises, handlers told the media. Silent. I mean, let's be honest. It's not like they'd be asking tough questions even if they were allowed to. I mean, you know my favorite example. Here's the star of Global News a few years back, the disgraced Liberal Tom Clark, asking Trudeau the toughest question he could.
So I guess the first thing I should ask you is, are you feeling lucky? I mean, the entire country wants to know. What shampoo do you use?
What a disappointing answer this is going to be. Whatever happens to be hanging around at the time.
Yeah. But imagine being told, no questions. You can only gaze upon Trudeau and his wondrous new hairstyle. You can only transmit exactly what he himself wants you to see and hear. He will essentially be your editor for you. He will give you exactly what words you need to hear and show you exactly what you need to see. No questions, no raising other issues, nothing in the public interest, just as the headline here says, what's in the Liberal Party's interest. Imagine consenting to that, complying with that, and calling what you produce news. Outside the BC Tree Fruits retail store on Vaughan Avenue in downtown Kelowna, one reporter risked such manhandling by asking Trudeau if he was going to meet with BC Premier John Horgan. Other things today, a smiling Trudeau replied before getting into one of the big black SUVs that made up his Okanagan convoy. Convoy. Now slow down a bit. The toughest, roughest accountability question the press gallery could muster is, would you meet with the Premier? It's such a pitiful question. It's so bloodless. It's actually the sort of thing you could just surely find out by looking at each man's schedule, as are usually published on their websites. Or you could even ask a press secretary that question. It really is an administrative question. It's not a substantive policy question. It's not, what do you say to homeowners on variable mortgages given the 1% interest rate hike from the Bank of Canada? That's a good question. Or why did you rewrite your Russia sanctions to exempt those big natural gas turbines that Russia wants? I don't know. I mean, they don't even have to be that tough. Just anything in the public interest, anything substantive. Seriously, a logistical or scheduling question that's almost secretarial, but apparently even that was too much. And the Kelowna Courier said he risked manhandling for that. And no biggie. No, that's not the headline. The fact that the Liberals are just killing it out there, that's the headline, if they do say so. This reminds me of when the Turkish authoritarian Erdogan visited the United States and his bodyguards roughed up Americans in America, and it was all fine, apparently.
Back up! Back across the street. Get over there. Get over there. Get over, don't come. Stay. Don't move.
Except that the thug in the black convoy making threats to journalists to shut up is Canada's authoritarian, not a foreign authoritarian. But, you know, his thugs do mean it. Remember what Trudeau's bodyguards did to our own David Menzies for daring to ask the wrong question, for shouting a question and not being silent. Remember this atrocity?
Ezra, I don't know what happened to Lincoln, but I just got brutally assaulted by Trudeau's RCMP guys.
I ain't on a side. What is this? You cannot touch me. You move aside.
They smashed my face into a wooden wall.
Yeah, that's Trudeau. I'll read some more from the story. Though a few of Trudeau's other summer appearances around the country have been met with protesters allied with last winter's Ottawa-bound convoy, even forcing the hurried cancellation of some such events, there was no such tumult waiting for Trudeau in Kelowna. That's likely because the Prime Minister's office was extremely vague on just where exactly he was going to show up in the Okanagan. The PMO's website didn't even refer to Kelowna or Summerland, the two cities where he was to put in appearances, saying only the PM would be in the interior region, British Columbia. As a result, anyone inclined to protest Trudeau's visit would have been hard-pressed to know where to take their placards. Only one protester carrying a sign with an expletive was outside the packing house, and he was kept well away from the facility's front door by police. Apparently discouraged, the man left before Trudeau reemerged on the street from the adjacent fruit store 20 minutes later. So we know why there weren't more protesters, but what does that have to do with why the press gallery was told to shut up? By the way, I'm not necessarily a fan of signs with swear words on them, but it's not illegal to swear in Canada. You should know that, and that's good, because Trudeau himself likes to swear. Here he is calling a Conservative MP, Peter Kent, a piece of shit.
Well, Mr. Speaker, my honourable colleague, if she had been in Durban, would have seen that, in fact, Canada was among the leaders in creating the...
Order. Order.
So it's not illegal to swear, even in Parliament. So why were police involved in keeping someone far away from the outside of a building? Again, that's how they roll in Turkey, but in Kelowna, Canada? I'll read some more. At the store, Trudeau asked BCTF representatives questions about the fruit, such as whether the high-grade cherries shipped for export were also available to locals. He paid for a small box of cherries with a $20 bill. "How are you today?" the clerk asked Trudeau. "I'm doing very well, but I'll be doing even better when I get some Okanagan cherries in me," Trudeau replied. Wow, I smell a Pulitzer Prize here. This is great accountability journalism. Really good investigative work. Thank God for the Fourth Estate. You guys really are holding the Prime Minister to account for all of us. You literally reported his banter buying some cherries, and then you published this in a newspaper as news. At the end of the tour, the PMO was likely well pleased with the silent movie-style news footage it produced of Trudeau talking to kids and admiring Okanagan fruit. His departure from Kelowna's industrial area was delayed a few moments when his convoy appeared to be hemmed in by semi-trailers at either end. Though the black SUVs were blocking the middle of the street, the truck drivers did not honk their horns. What a passive-aggressive news report that was, eh? I get the sense that the reporter, Ron Seymour is his name, might have actually liked to have written it a bit differently. Different headline, maybe. Maybe focus a bit more on the bullying and the threats. But that's not really the journalism that's allowed anymore, is it? He calls it silent movie propaganda-style footage, but he acknowledges in a way that that's what he's doing too. And let's look at that headline just once again. Trudeau's muted trip to Kelowna, a liberal success. Would you say that's journalism? Who wrote that headline? I'm guessing it's the guy who cashes the Trudeau checks to journalists in this country. It's not just the propaganda. It's not just the slavish, slobbering love letter. It's that Ron Seymour observed the bullying, the threats of violence. He observed a press gallery being humiliated and loving it. And he observed one lone protester being pushed back by the cops like it was in Turkey. And yet that's not the headline, and no one else cares either. None of the reporters going along with it in this convoy. Hey, look at this. This is from the Canada Revenue Agency website. If you'll remember, if you see down there, this is the list of media companies, journalism organizations that are licensed by Trudeau with the QCJO status, Qualified Canadian Journalism Organizations. That's what Trudeau calls trusted journalists, as in he can trust them. That's the word he uses. So they're approved. They're licensed. The QCJO is a kind of government permit. And with that license, you get government money. And you will soon get money from Facebook and Google extracted by Trudeau. And soon you will get your stories boosted on the internet by Facebook and Google by order of Canadian law, but only if you're a QCJO licensed media outlet. And if you don't have that status, you won't get those things. You won't even have access to government events. You won't get government money, of course, or Google or Facebook money, of course, and you will be downranked by Facebook and Google on the internet. What you just read in the Kelowna Daily Courier, and I read every word in the story to you, is what licensed Trudeau-approved QCJO journalism looks like. It is obedient. It is cringeworthy. It is partisan propaganda. It's humiliating, but they do it because they're beggars, the QCJO journalists. And we don't do that here. But we're one of the only ones in Canada who don't take that government money. You know, sometimes countries become dictatorships overnight, in a revolution or a war. I'm thinking of the Taliban retaking Afghanistan. Not that it was a vibrant democracy before that. But I think more often it happens slowly, step by step. Hitler became chancellor in 1933, but it took him 6 years to fully corrupt Germany and turn it into a full-blown Nazi dictatorship. 6 years it took him. Venezuela didn't become a dictatorship overnight either. Do you really think there's some magic reason why Canada would be immune to this step-by-step descent into authoritarianism? What you just saw was an excerpt from my nightly show, The Ezra Levant Show. Every weekday I do a monologue. Usually it's about half an hour. Then I interview an interesting guest, and then we read my hate mail or my fan mail, whichever is more fun. It's only available behind a paywall, though. That's how we pay our bills here at Rebel News. We don't take a dime from Justin Trudeau. But the good news is it's only $8 a month, about half the price of Netflix. And in addition to my nightly show, you also get weekly shows from 4 other friends here at Rebel News. So you're getting 36 shows a month just for $8. I think it's worth it. And even if you're not quite sure, do it anyways, because we rely on viewers like you to keep us free and independent. I promise you I'll never take a dime from Trudeau. Just go to rebelnewsplus.com and click subscribe. Thanks.